Today we're continuing the last video. Professor Stanford said that humans do not have free will. Let's continue to discuss what consciousness is. Why do I think humans do not have free will? How should this be understood from the perspectives of science, physics, quantum mechanics, philosophy, and even Buddhism? And why do I think that humans do not have free will? This proves that we live in a virtual world. The last video manuscript has caused a lot of discussion among everyone, and the comments are also very polarized. Some viewers agree with Professor Rock of Stanford that we humans do not have free will at all, while some viewers believe that humans must have free will. Even the fact that the professor can put forward this view shows that he has free will, otherwise why would he think about whether this question exists? I think, therefore I am, Descartes I think, therefore I am. The essence of this sensitive question is that we know our existence through consciousness. However, what exactly is consciousness? Is it a byproduct of our brain neurons, or does it tell about transcendence from a spiritual perspective? What about the existence of the material world? Let me do an experiment for you to try to understand what consciousness is from a scientific perspective. When you see the color matching of my video change, what do you feel? When you see my refined photos and videos without them, what do you feel? May I ask everyone, have you had any emotional changes in the past minute? From other perspectives of neuroscience, what you see, what you hear, your likes, your dislikes, your passions, your fears, this is consciousness. In simple terms, it is the experience of things. So, if we are now undergoing an operation under general anesthesia and we don't have any feelings, are we conscious? Have you seen The Matrix? After the male protagonist came into contact with the real world by chance, he did not doubt his existence. Why not? Because he has experienced things, even if this thing is virtual, all of this is too ethereal. Just like our science has quantum mechanics, kinematics, and electromagnetism. So, why don't we have a subject called consciousness? But consciousness is our foundation. How can we learn these theories without consciousness? Scientists say that we know that consciousness exists, but we don't know how to study it. This is the scope of philosophers. Jajaya, I found Francis Crick, the most outstanding biologist, physicist, neurologist, Nobel Prize winner in history, who discovered the double helix structure of DNA. He also has a living apprentice. There is a theory. Going back to the experiment we just did, I changed the color of the video and added ads. Why do people have emotional fluctuations? Why do you feel good when someone kisses you? Why does it hurt when you are pinched? Have you ever thought about it? Pain is a very abstract thing. When you are pinched, electricity will be sent along the nerves to the spine and finally to the cerebral cortex. At this time, the neurons in the brain begin to discharge. Our body cannot perceive this series of movements, but all the imperceptible things will eventually cause the feeling of pain and the consciousness of pain. If we want to understand the connection between an ethereal consciousness and the flesh from a scientific perspective, we must understand how neurons move and how they are transferred from one organ to another. In professional terms, it is called the NCC neural association theory. For example, when we see our favorite person, some areas of the brain will be activated, and when we see something we hate, another area will be activated. We can see these neurons constantly moving in the brain and transmitting electrical signals, but we don't know why these neural activities will produce consciousness, causing us happiness or pain. It's like there's an infinite and invisible net covering us in our world, making us unable to perceive, and this invisible net is expressed through electricity. Does this mean that we exist in some kind of computer? Are we really the Matrix? If you are still not convinced by me and do not agree that our world and our consciousness may be virtual, let us continue to explore. We will talk about religion, artificial intelligence, and quantum mechanics. Let's see if you agree. Before discussing, let's think about a question. Is consciousness unique to humans or higher animals? Is it possible that all matter in the universe, an electron, a tiny hydrogen atom, a carbon atom, or a speck of dust, has consciousness? It's just that we humans are more complex and have complex consciousness, while simple matter has simple consciousness. Is it possible that thinking is not just a state of mind, but it is a basic attribute of the universe, like mass and energy? This question is called pansexuality in the scientific community. Obviously, our current scientific level is limited, and we cannot explore the authenticity of this theory. If science cannot prove it, how can we answer it from Buddhism? In the comments of the previous video, many friends mentioned that Stanford professor Robert's understanding of people not having free will is very similar to Buddhism. Let's think about it now. What is the core of Tibetan Buddhism? It is the binary pair of reincarnation and nirvana. Why do we reincarnate? The Tibetan Ma, Arja, Stra explains it very well. It says that after death, we will experience the state of middle sound, which is the transitional stage between death and rebirth. At this time, we will experience various illusions. If we practice carefully enough, We can see through the illusions to see the essence, push away the karma like clouds, and enter the final state of nirvana. So, what is karma here? Karma is cause and effect. The accumulation of past actions will profoundly affect the present and the future. So, are the thoughts of each of us our own thoughts, or is it just a conditioned response to past karma? In other words, although we may feel that we are making choices, choosing braised chicken or skewers, these choices are largely limited by the past cause and effect chain. If you say that cause and effect is too superficial, Buddhism tells us the concept of no self. There is no self. The so-called self is temporarily formed by the five aggregates of color and feeling, and there is no fixed self in the whole world. The lack of a fixed self shows that the so-called free will is an illusion. This illusion is called nameless in Buddhist language. This illusion makes us cling to having an independent self and makes us think that we can control our lives through our own will. But I must emphasize this point. In Tibetan Buddhism, this obsession with free will is actually the root of our human suffering because it violates the basic laws of the universe, which are impermanence and selflessness. When you are no longer obsessed with free will, the individual is no longer bound by karma, and at this time, you will reach the freedom beyond the duality and causal constraints. I believe this is what many viewers want to express in the comment area. But since we are doing a thinking program, Jaja, I have to constantly overturn my own theory. Buddhism is too religious and too fantasy, and too far away from our daily life. Even if I listen to so much, what's the use of these words? Similarly, this is also the view of many people in the previous video. After listening to the video, so let's go back from heaven to earth. Let's think about another question. Please forget everything we just said. What is the biggest difference between humans and machines? Is it that we can think? I have no consciousness. I think about Descartes. Then let's come to the hottest technology so far in 2022. Artificial intelligence, AI, ChatGPT. If the difference between humans and machines is that we have consciousness and they don't, when we found that dismantling GPT also has consciousness, have we created a new intelligent creature? It is no longer an intelligent robot, but a brand new intelligent creature. In other words, if our current AI has self-awareness, can it be said that what we call self-will can be created? Then we have been discussing self-awareness, and free will no longer exist. If it is created, how can it be free? Western religions call it God, and I call it high-dimensional space and high-dimensional wisdom, which is my virtual world nesting doll theory. Of course, the premise of all this is whether our AI has will. The current judgment criteria are based on passing the Turing test, having autonomous decision-making beyond domain programming instructions, whether AI has the ability to self-reflect, and whether AI can experience emotions. Looking back at the development of AI in the past 2 years, can we make a speculation that one day our AI will have consciousness, self-behavior, and realize the leap from robot to human in thinking? When that day comes, it will be a strong evidence that we are not just one level higher than our AI, belonging to another dimension of AI. Otherwise, it will prove that we are the most original wisdom in the entire universe. All low microorganisms are opened by us. Is option 2 too arrogant? After all, we have not explored even 1/10,000th of the universe, so only option 1 remains. Are we also AI? Does AI have will? Or is all this just a virtual fantasy? We live in a virtual world. Let's answer a theory that appeared in the barrage of the previous video, that is, the impact of quantum mechanics on free will. Let's first talk about why some people think that quantum mechanics proves free will, and then we will refute why I think this view is not valid. One of the basic principles of quantum mechanics is that microscopic particles can be in multiple states at the same time, and the system will not collapse to a certain state until it is observed or measured. This quantum collapse phenomenon has led some scientists and thinkers to speculate that it may have some connection with consciousness. The core of this idea lies in the theory of quantum consciousness. According to this theory, consciousness is not the result of simple neuronal activity, but is directly related to quantum physical processes. Specifically, some people have proposed uncertainty and waves in quantum mechanics. Function collapse may be the basis of conscious experience. In other words, when we have a conscious experience of something, this experience may be a form of exploration process of the quantum system in the brain. It can be deduced from this that if the generation of consciousness does involve quantum exploration, then the experience of consciousness may not be the result of complete determinism, but a certain degree of freedom. So far, the theory that quantum mechanics shows that we have free will. Now let's try to refute this view, because I am not an expert in quantum physics. Let's directly quote the research of Max Tarr, a physicist who teaches at Stanford at the same time as Professor Robert. If a non-deterministic subatomic effect can affect the behavior of a molecule, the effect must be magnified by 23 orders of magnitude. This calculation result shows that the uncertainty or randomness in quantum mechanics. In the macroscopic world, the impact on the movement of molecules is so small that it can be ignored. In layman's terms, even if there is some uncertainty or random events at the quantum level, the impact of these events on the macroscopic level is not enough to change the behavior of molecules, let alone affect the behavior and decision making of complex biological systems or people. Therefore, quantum mechanics proves only randomness, not the free choice or free will we think of. The fundamental logic of the collapse of randomness in quantum mechanics is probability, not whether we observe it or not, nor is it our will. The concept of free will usually involves the ability to choose oneself, but the randomness of quantum mechanics cannot give this ability. Our behavior is determined by a series of complex conditions, and these conditions are caused by the current behavior. Back to one of your points, I have heard it all. So, what is the ultimate purpose of understanding will? In fact, it is to go from religion to science to philosophy, and finally try to understand the universe and understand what I am. Do I exist? Descartes said, I think, therefore I am there. Do we have the ability not to think? If we empty our minds and stop thinking, will I no longer exist? Or, if my body dies, will consciousness continue to exist? I would like to end with a sentence from Jin Heizai in The Legend of Wukong. There are places in this world that you cannot reach, places that you should not reach, and places that you will never go to in your life. Your world is not as big as you think. The boundary may be right next to you, but you think you can go anywhere. Where can our thinking and our will go, and how far can we go? I don't know the answer to this question,